I see Nina's beautiful face in this lovely photo. Are you there? So those of you that are joining us on Facebook, I am just going to wait until 12:30 and give Nina a chance to get a drink of water and do what she needs to be here with us. If you didn't see how to join us, so that if you want to join us on video, then just go to the events page on my business page, go to the events section, and you'll get the link to go to Zoom and just register and come join us if you want to be on camera. You can also, I think you may be able to send in the chat still some, it looks like you can still put in the chat some of the questions that you might have right here in the Facebook chat, and I will address your questions, your concerns, your fears, and share your resources. So definitely love that you're here and really appreciate you. So just bear with us while we set everything up, and I'll give you a little more guidance on how to participate in just a moment. And again, just waiting on Nina to join us.
I'm in. Woo.
Wow, there you are. Hi.
Graham, hi.
Hi. So
I'm okay. 12:30, right?
Yeah, I just came in a little early. As I always do a little tech support and give some people guidance on how to participate. So welcome. We're a little early. I'm still doing some of the finishing touches on the Facebook page so that people can participate and we can see their questions.
Okay, great.
So
let me
yeah.
open the chat window, so I'm there.
Yeah. So so there are two different ways, and I'll be toggling back and forth. This is one of the first times I've done a video like this with another person live on Facebook using the Zoom integration.
Oh,
so yeah, we're learning, but
wow, amazing! I can't wait to rip off your system when you have it documented, because it's brilliant.
And that's what we're all doing, right? And that's the other reason, those of you that are just joining us, you may know that Nina and I are very good friends. And even though we're pretty close to each other geographically here in New York City, I haven't seen you. It's very sad. So.
Yes, it is. We're due for a walk. I was thinking of you yesterday because I actually went out for a run while the weather was still in the 50s. And I thought, oh, why don't I bother her? And then I thought, maybe not.
I wish you had. Although there was a good chance I was working because, as we all are doing, we're kind of balancing the new normal. But it looks like we are live now in Facebook also. And so I believe you can put questions in. I'm still learning again how to do that. So feel free to just put something in the chat and ask your questions, but we're gonna, I guess you want to start a little bit early since we're up and running a lot more quickly than we thought we would be.
Surprise. I mean, I would say, why don't we start with some intro stuff, because if people are keeping to time, you're probably on John Acuff's list as well, and he sent around a really interesting email yesterday just about dealing with what's going on. And he had a wonderful phrase. He said, last week was weird because it didn't have a shape. Yeah. And that really struck, that phrasing was really, it was very poetic, but he was right, because I know for myself, there was a sense of, okay, I need to have my structure, but But why? And what does it mean? And what's coming up? And I don't know. There's so many I don't knows. So it was just a really beautiful way to encapsulate it, of not having a shape. So for those who do have businesses with a shape, who are expecting 12:30, I figured maybe we should give them
No, I think that's
a little
great,
heads
and
up.
thank you for being mindful of that. You know me. This is for those, again, for those of you that are joining us and know either one of us. You probably already know that we keep each other very balanced, because Nina is definitely a systems person, follows the procedure, and I'm more of a litigator, even though I'm a reformed litigator and I mediate now, I kind of am a fly by the seat of my pants. I'm pretty good in a lot of crises. And so it's not unusual for me to jump in and do that. So I love having Nina keeping me to the structure.
Just a little bit.
And it's great, because it also does give us a chance to do what you just did, is just bring some of the energy into the room. And when I've coached at Landmark, and I'm sure there are some people that will see this video that's how they know me. That was one of the things we often did before our meetings, and actually not even often, almost always, we did a little clearing of just, what do you need to chatter about, let go of, so that you can be fully present with us in this moment and get the most out of it. And I think that's a great way to also bring us forward right now, because this lack of shape that you're talking about, that John wrote about, it's so important to create that for ourselves, even in this situation where it feels like we have no power, because it's about being powerless and help less, but those words have less on them for a reason, right? It's about maybe having less power than you thought, but it doesn't mean you have no power, right? There's a difference. And so it's about finding where that power is and channeling it in whatever way you can, under whatever circumstances that come up.
Right.
So,
and something, Nancy, that you say quite often is forgiving yourself for having conflicts. And there can be a lot of conflict. I know within myself, the sense of, are there really any deadlines right now? Could I just take the day off and chow down on cheese popcorn, as I do often, and watch funny movies?
So delicious.
And sometimes, and sometimes, there's,
Hi,
especially
Emily.
now, there's a time and a place for that. So, so to just honor kind of where you are in that moment, that things are strange, that we may need comfort in certain ways that might, in normal circumstances, we might not say, yes, that's top of the line, healthy for us. But just to be a little more compassionate with what's going on, so that we have the strength to keep moving forward. Because if we're going to be the hard taskmasters on ourselves, particularly with the stress, hey, Emily, that's going to make it more difficult to continue to move forward and stay in action.
Yeah, and that I have to tag on that, and then we'll get going for real. Since Emily, you're starting to come in, and we're expecting more people will come in. So I just want to comment. Of course, you can have your treat, right? But one of the things that I often say for myself, right, because I have a tendency to, if certain things are in the house, then I will eat them instead of a real meal. And so if you're having a treat every day, it's not actually a treat anymore, it's a habit. And so one of the things that that we're talking a lot in my community is about is, despite everything going on with restrictions on some of the exercise we might have done in the gym, et cetera, I'm a little bit of a health nut, but give myself a little bit of latitude also, is just recognize that you have to still eat nutrient-rich foods, especially right now. So, you don't want your immune system going down because you're isolated and you're eating and drinking your way through the emotional stuff you're not dealing with, which is another reason that I wanted to do these calls, right, is to let you guys know we're here for you. We're focusing today on small business, but I am a conflict resolution coach, mediator, and advisor as a lawyer and a trainer. So I like to bring that all together and I have a very holistic, integrative approach. And I want you guys to know that Nina and I are here for you in a lot of ways. So Nina, why don't you tell them, in case we have people that don't know you that are watching, tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure, and thank you for having me on the call today, Nancy. Are you hearing are you hearing some reverberation, or is it just me? Oh, fun with technology. So hello everyone and welcome to Noontime with Nancy, although it's now 12:33. I'm Nina Kaufman. I am the founder of Business Exponential, and I work with knowledge professionals to help them streamline their business and earn what they deserve. So it involves business coaching, a lot of digital products, really thinking about how to create a business that has better systems in it. You've probably heard Michael Gerber talk about working on your business, not in your business, but really getting it to run like a well-oiled machine. And my background is also in law, having worked with small businesses as well in contracts and business formation for over 20 years. So the two kind of fit together because really contracts are an outline for how we do business together. It's our process for how you and your client are going to work together. And so I'm happy to be here and really talking about how we can help small businesses get past a time of great chaos and really to move forward. So I just want to confirm, are you hearing some background noise as well as I'm speaking? No. All right. So I'll just pretend I'm not hearing it.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I often do mine with my headset on. But I'm finding that one, my ears are getting tired of having buds in them and they start to hurt by the end of the day because I'm doing so many more video calls. And so, you're welcome to, experiment throughout the call too. None of us are judging, right? I think that's something else that we want to just bring forward is that we're all experiencing this new technology, new for some of us. Nina and I've been doing video for a while, so not as new for us, but I also invite you guys, if you have questions about technology, if you're a little shy about bringing that into this particular forum, if you want to put it in the comments, if you want to reach out to us, there are lots of different ways that you have access to resources, because that's something that I keep telling everybody is, if I do not have the direct resource you need right now in this moment, then put the comment in the video and I will come back and read the comments, and if I can find that for you, I will put that in the link. So Emily, since you're here on video, would you like to unmute yourself and say hello and tell us what you do? You don't have to.
She wants to. You can tell she wants to.
Okay, I'm going to unmute you for you. Okay.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So yeah, now you see it. Okay, yeah. So anybody else that wants to do that, you just go to the bottom, and there's a mute button in the far left-hand corner on your control panel.
So I know Nina, and we commiserate, about different issues, particularly at various times, and now is obviously a time for us to all be, communicating and keeping together here. I'm an attorney and entrepreneur. I have a very active law practice, but I also have a number of other business interests, including real estate investments and other things. So I'm on the front lines of entrepreneurship as well as trying to support entrepreneurs through my law practice.
Yeah, and that is something I think those of us that are dealing a lot with small businesses right now, or are small businesses ourselves, we're watching closely some of the recovery efforts or the support efforts from both the federal government and those of us that are in New York. We've got programs in New York, but one of the things I'll bring forward and we can start talking about right away is, how do you make the decisions on what to do? And one of the things that I've been telling my clients is that, first of all, we have to look at the numbers. And Nina and I are both, we have N's in our names for reasons. It's we love numbers, right? And so the first thing is really going back to your numbers. And a colleague of mine, I just posted his video this morning. Mike Gansel is a an advisor, a business consultant, and he says, the number one thing you have to do right now is conserve your cash. Look at what your cash is. And so every way that you can do that, cash really is king. And so, once we start doing that and looking at numbers and what are your receivables, what's the cash you're likely to get in, et cetera, like that's the number one thing you have to have a handle on before you can start making decisions. Because if you aren't foreseeing the cash coming in through your revenue and whatever you're doing, whether it's a service or a product that you're selling, the loans that they're offering, interest-free or not, right? The last thing you want to do is keep throwing money out there and staying open. Like a lot of the conversations I have, because I work with workforce, a lot of the conversations I've been having are, how many people can I keep on? And the small businesses, they're so just generous with their employees, right? It's been, I'll get a little teary, I'll just admit it, because they care so much about their employees that some of them have been staying open, even though they're not doing any business, just so they can pay their employees. And some of these decisions that they're having to make is heartbreaking, because taking a loan with no real income coming in and no real plan, right? Like, it's very difficult to project cash flow at this point. And so having to navigate that on a very individual basis, that's the other thing that, I wanted to get out there, is that it's great that we have different stimulus packages and things coming out, but you still need to look at your numbers to make sure that taking a loan is going to make sense for your business.
Yeah,
So
and Nancy, I'll just jump in, because especially because I work with a lot of solo business owners who may not necessarily have employees. You want to look at the eligibility requirements for both the federal and the state grants and loans very carefully, because there are two things that they're dealing with. Number one, it's to help you retain your employees. If you don't have employees, it's not for you. The other, and I started digging in for myself as well, is that you need to be able to, at least for some of the state programs or New York City programs, for example, you need to be able to show that the downturn occurred because of COVID-19, not just because of a general downturn and, and we happen to have this virus that made things worse. So for small business owners, there was a JP Morgan survey recently that said 75% of small businesses have 30 days or less cash on hand. 25% of them have 14 days or less. So when it comes to numbers, it's important to know, like, what are the numbers? Do you even have numbers? Because if not, and if you're thinking about rebuilding, that's one of the first places that you're going to want to start to shore up as you think about systems or moving forward, or what do you need to do in terms of part-time work to keep things afloat, is to say, can you create a better system around your numbers, what you're reporting, how you're reporting it, how you're getting that information, so that even if you did have an opportunity to apply for the loans or the grants, you can get that information quickly and truly be eligible.
So I'm going to ask you, Nina, to do us a favor. One is for any of you that are watching and looking for the chat. It's in the menu bar at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to invite you to put a link, because of what you're talking about and getting into numbers and getting your stuff organized so you can make good decisions. Look, I know I didn't necessarily do this intending to plug Nina, but when I see things that are going to be helpful, I'm going to plug whoever I think is going to be helpful. So Nina has a program. It's a 30-day challenge that will help you organize a lot of things. So I'd like you to put the link in there to your Chaos Proof Challenge, because for those of you that are looking for ways to organize all your documents so that you can get everything together, it's just a wonderful guide. Small steps to take, less than 15 minutes each day. You can do that. And one of the things, I'm doing the challenge currently, and one of the things that I will say is, I've told you this, Nina, is I'm excited because I've realized I have a lot more organized than I thought, and it's going to make it easier for you if you ever have to step in for me.
Yes. But thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I try to make it easy for you. you. And let's hope you never need it. But I have discovered that just wrangling in, like, I'm starting to see, oh yeah, some of my clients, they don't have their work in progress easily accessible. They don't have a way of looking at what their receivables are. They're, doing the kind of what people do with their accountant, they've got the box of receipts and papers, right. And now it's just electronic. So if you're looking for ways to get organized, I definitely invite you to take advantage of the 30-day chaos-proof business challenge. It's extremely affordable. And so relevant to what we're dealing with right now. So sorry.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
Didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, but it's just so relevant to what we're doing.
Yeah, no, great. And I think something else to think about is, and I'll put that link. I'm looking. I have two screens here, so I'm looking at one, and I'm going to another. There's a website called gusto.com. It's sort of an online HR portal, and they have a good list of federal and state and also private corporation things. I say things, not things. These are relief programs, loans, grants, things like that. Let me see, can I get the link in there? There we go. And so if you read through the post, there actually is a link to a spreadsheet that they've created, which is really terrific because that lists the relief efforts, particularly on the government side, by state. So anyone who's not in New York City, the three of us showing right now are, but anyone who's outside of New York City, there are resources throughout the country as well as the federal government. I will say just an FYI, again, this is a time of testing our patience, and when I clicked on the different links for the federal government and the Small Business Administration and their disaster relief funds and all of that, I get a message that says, our website is undergoing maintenance.
Yeah.
So be patient. When you're thinking about conserving cash, realize that even if you were able to apply for something tomorrow, the money is not necessarily going to be in your bank account on Friday.
Yeah, and that's something that you may want to, small businesses that are having to lay off employees and close, right? Most of them have already been in the process of making those decisions, especially here in New York, because we've been on lockdown a little bit longer than a lot of areas of the country. But that's something else that we've been warning the employees when the employers do have to make that very difficult decision. I believe when we closed the restaurants last Tuesday, I think that the Department of Labor here in New York reported that they had something like 70,000 claims come in one day. So it crashed the website. They've had more than 1 million calls and communications around the various needs just here in New York. So that's something else that, we're having to exercise patience. And that's another reason that I decided, let's just bring people together and talk about the kinds of things we're dealing with, because we need to remember that there's a human being on the other side of whatever's going on, and they're in the same boat you are. So, the circumstances might be slightly different. I'm hearing so many different stories. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of, how everybody has a 9/11 story that was here in New York. And all of us have some sort of coronavirus lockdown story, and every day new things are coming in. So just be mindful of that you're under a lot of stress, and so is everyone around you. So, try to channel it into some sort of positive action. And so if you go to the websites and it's not working yet, most of us have a little more time on our hands. So just keep trying. Maybe try at odd hours, right? Like if you have to set the alarm on your phone to wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning to try again when maybe people aren't using it at the same level, then try that. We've got to understand that this is completely unprecedented, and we all have to roll with it. On Friday, the governor of New York had the essential services, and he originally just had a list of maybe like 8 to 10 essential service categories, but they hadn't been clearly defined. So by the afternoon, I was giving slightly different advice than I might have been in the morning, because we were just trying to navigate the whole thing all day long. And that is our new normal. So just be aware of that, embrace it, because you can't change it.
Yeah, so there's an expression that we lawyers have that says it's hard to draft against a moving target. So it's like working with a client and you're trying to shape a deal, but new information comes in every day and the pricing terms are different and the parties involved are different and the time frame is different. And it's very hard to say, okay, this is the process when things are changing all the time. So to that point as well, yes, new information is coming in every day. Are we going to be reopening for business by Easter? Who knows? Maybe we will and maybe we won't, and all we know is what we have today.
Yeah.
Right.
So Emily,
I just wanted, if you don't mind, I wanted to just share a couple of things that I'm seeing with some businesses, although they're staying open, obviously they're not able to generate enough money, and as you were saying, they're paying the employees that are there and so forth. What I'm seeing also are that some businesses are trying to do a temporary shutdown with the hope of rehiring, but of course if they have employees that they've laid off temporarily and then are still trying to have them do specific tasks while they're laid off, that creates some employment law problems for people, which they may not be even aware of that. And you know, the ones that are having to make a decision to unfortunately lay off people, one of the things I've also seen is that some of them are setting up sort of funds to try to raise money to help the employees while they're laid off, particularly some of the restaurant industry people,
right,
which I think is fantastic. But then those owners need to realize they're going to have fiduciary obligations in respect to those funds, and they don't want to commingle those funds into their general operating stuff, because if they wind up, God forbid, going bankrupt, they're going to have all kinds of prioritization of creditors and all kinds of issues. This is just going to become a very, very complex process for people who are just trying to make sure they can keep the lights on so that they have something to go back to,
Right.
you know.
yeah, and that's a lovely point, and thank you, Emily, because that is something that I've been dealing with a lot. When I say we've been baby stepping things, you know, I have some clients that I started the conversation early with, because they already, you know, as soon as, say, for example, people on Wall Street started working from home, if you had any kind of business in that was dependent on the lunchtime crowd, the coffee crowd, any kinds of retail locations or anything that you're dependent upon that flow of people, or in Times Square, you think the tourism, right? When people stopped coming, you know, all of that, all of those businesses that support those areas were seeing a slowdown. And that's when these conversations started. So the first response was what you're talking about, is like maybe just scaling back a little bit and rotating shifts. So we've talked about, for some businesses that makes sense. And then in New York, it's not necessarily in every state. So you have to go to your Department of Labor. Excuse me, this is how live this is. This is how live video works, right? So it's not coronavirus, it's allergies, I promise. Yep. Or at least I sure hope. But anyway, you know, we had to look at that. And so in New York, you can do kind of this work share type program with unemployment. So what I told them is, if you have to rotate and you're only working people maybe 2 days, and that's what they want to do because they like the routine of coming back in. And this was before, you know, it started to increase. We looked at that. And then there was supplementing the reduction in pay with unemployment. So that's one option for some people. But then others, you know, the employees, as the number of cases that we've had more testing, so we've seen more cases reported, we start to either realize it's a bigger problem, or maybe it's becoming a bigger problem. We're not really sure which it is. It doesn't matter. It's out there. And so people have become a little bit more afraid. And then we have the issue without the PPE, or the personal protective equipment being available, you know, having your employees come in without gloves or masks or any cleaning supplies that are actually, you know, disinfecting. You have to start thinking about that as well, as what are the liabilities. And employees started looking at what their options are. So I'll put the links in. I'm not going to do it while I'm live, but I will put the links in for the New York programs, because the state did a couple of things. Of course, we increased the unemployment, but we've also expanded paid family leave and disability benefits. So those are two different programs, and you need to look at both of them for the, if you're an employee that's been laid off temporarily out of work, or possibly even the business that you were working with is closed. You want to look at all of those resources. And I'll put those links in. So if you're watching this, just come back and look in the comments and they'll be there.
Yeah. Another thing I want to jump in on, Nancy, is the issue of like, where are you finding money? And for many small businesses that I work with, they don't always have a regular way of invoicing. So while it may be difficult to collect now because things are quieter, it's a great opportunity to see, where do you still have money on the table? Where do people owe you money? Because that could be, I just had a client pay me the other day, and there are little bits of and pieces of things that are coming through where people still have needs, because they are looking ahead to April, May, June, and saying, well, my business will be surviving, and I do want to make sure I'm continuing to move forward. So that is certainly an option as well, is look, get all that invoicing done. Usually say, oh, I'm so busy, I can't. But now you're not as busy. So send those send those invoices out, because at the very least, you're letting them know that if they can't pay now, when things open up, then you're ready to accept it. And it's also a good time to consider for yourself, would you accept either a payment plan? Would you take a reduction of the total amount to get the money right away? Can you take credit cards? All kinds of things to think about. How might you fill your coffers so that there is more cash flowing into your business to keep you afloat longer?
Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree with that. The only thing I definitely want to say that when you send out a bill, I think you definitely want to not just send it out as a normal invoice, like the way that QuickBooks or one of the other things might generate it under these circumstances,
right,
because it will make people feel more pressure, even that they already have, given their own financial situation. And what I've loved about some of the vendors that I have for my firm is that we're getting support emails prior to getting a bill saying, we're here to help you if you're finding it difficult to make a payment or anything like that. And I think that at least eases the burden. Even, I would love it if Westlaw would send that out to me instead of Reuters would send that out instead of sending, here's your next bill, right? But, some of our other vendors have been very kind. Even if you don't need it, it helps you to feel better about the circumstances. And so I would encourage people to at least try to put a preface on these bills, maybe to regenerate the way the fine print reads or something like that. But I am 100% with you, Nina. They got to get the bills out so they can keep the money flow coming in when it's available.
Exactly. And especially for small businesses working perhaps with other small businesses, they may be assuming, oh, so and such can't pay me or won't want to pay me, or I don't want to piss people off. I don't want to, cut the flow of future business. But again, this is about the work you have already done that you're entitled to be paid for. So very important, yeah, as you say. And I like that approach, Emily, as well, just to say, I understand that things are difficult. Even just to say, I'm using this time to make sure I'm staying on top of my invoicing. So if this is an issue, please let's talk and see what we can do. And we're in this together.
And Emily, you and I are on the same page here. It's like, as you were saying, oh, I have something to say on this, I had been typing, turn off Netflix and send your invoices, possibly with a phone call or personal message. and that's the other thing I've been doing a lot of, because I'll admit I tend to be very comfortable working from home. I've been doing this for 17 years almost. And I think, Nina, you've been in and out at different times, sometimes in your office, sometimes working from home. It's just more convenient, right? Yeah. So especially once you mastered technology years ago, right? For whatever that means, because it's always changing, right? And, but I definitely have seen that I need to reach out more, because I can't do the things that I would normally do, like call you up and say, hey, Nina, I want to go for a walk. I'm having a bad day, right? And so, there are things like that, or going and just, sometimes I would go to my local coffee shop just to say hi to them. It's like my little cheers, right? Where, yay, they're making my coffee and they're saying hi to me. I need that, right? And so one of the things that I recognize around the billing is that everything can be an opportunity if you're being human, right? So just calling up clients and saying, hey, I got issues too right now. I think we're all in this together. I need something. Can you pay me anything, even if you can pay me $20? I just need to have cash, because that's the topic we brought up earlier, is like cash is king right now. And so, if it's like, if you can send me $20 a week, that would be really helpful for me right now. Because if you've got 5 clients, then sending you $20 a week, well, $100 is better than, as my mom would say, beats a blank, right? So,
blank.
and that's what we're looking at, is like, at this point, every single dollar matters to us. But you also don't want to leave somebody in the lurch, right? So just having that compassion and having a conversation with them. I've also found that just doing that, because I legitimately care about my clients and I just want to see how they're doing through all of this, and doing just like we're doing here, what resource do you need? Mm-hmm. I'm not billing you for that call. I honestly care. And then what I've found is, there's a need. Well, I know somebody that can fill that need. And it doesn't necessarily mean we're charging for it. Like I have a friend who's treating for cancer, terminal cancer, and she's extremely high risk right now. And just something as simple as, she needed toilet paper last week. And I said, I got 6 rolls. I can bring you one. She was ordering online. It was going to take a week because of the people hoarding. And I said, I'll bring you a couple rolls, but I may have to ask for 2 back when you get your shipment, right? But you know what? I was like, this is the kind of stuff that we can do for each other. And whether you're a small business or just you're thinking of yourself as a neighbor or a friend, like, these are the kinds of things we can be doing. And this is how we're going to get through this.
Yeah, very true.
Right. Some people, I restocked my mother's pantry upstate for about 2 months because I don't know when I'll be able to go back. I'm having to basically stay in and around the city. I got an essential business waiver or whatever, or confirmation letter from the mayor's office from my pro bono and low bono criminal work to help indigent defendants, because even though my practice is primarily business related, I also do criminal work, as you know, Nina. So to be able to go out to Rikers and go places, so I've had to do that. But the one of the ways that if a company has the ability to have gift certificates, it's another wonderful way to support businesses in this time. Go ahead and buy a gift certificate. If you have that gift certificate program, if any of your clients have those kind of programs, some of the restaurants are obviously staying alive or having, getting people to buy gift certificates to try to help them stay alive, which is great. And I think that the idea that we just all kind of have to be human. So someone brought my mother fresh vegetables because there's only so many canned goods and frozen vegetables that you can eat. Somebody brought her, she's in her 80s, and someone brought those to her just a day or so ago, which was nice. So we all do have to help each other out and do that, have that human element to it,
Yeah, and to that point, I learned that Uber Eats is also, I think, waiving delivery fees for all small businesses within, that apply or are shown to actually be small businesses, not just huge chains and things like that. So that's a way to help them as well, because a lot of us who would ordinarily rely on delivery, we're still happy to be fed. So it's a great way to keep them up.
Yeah, and I'm putting some of the comments in just for, I know some people prefer to read them, right? So also be especially generous with your tips for the delivery people. Something that I think we overlook is how much these people are contributing, and we're seeing it now more than ever. These are not high wage earners, right? And they're out there risking their lives, literally risking their lives to bring you food. So keep that in mind, be generous with people. But I want to take that a little bit further, this idea of all the kinds of things that we're thinking about, like how can we be of service? Not, it's looking at how are we being of service as individuals? How are we being of service as businesses? And I want to take it forward to, like, what kinds of things can we do to find solutions? Because I just was on a call right before this one that I just thought was so cool how people are coming up with ways to still be of service, and down to a hairdresser on Long Island that was concerned that people were going to start coloring their hair at home, right? so they reached out to their clients and said, look, I know you're going to probably do this. Don't use the box. I'm going to mix your color that I normally give you. Drive by the salon, I will give it to you. You can color your hair at home, right? And I just thought that was such a clever way of using their unique skills and what they had access to. And I also heard about Joann Fabrics is pre-cutting surgical masks. And so if you're in an area where you have a Joann Fabrics, you can actually drive by, get a box of the fabric, and they will drop it in your trunk, right? You can sew the masks, and then they will donate them to the hospitals. So there are all these unique things going on. We're hearing about people finding ways, finding solutions. And as entrepreneurs, right, I think this is what we do. We're looking for solutions. So if nothing else, hopefully this call will just get you thinking, so that when you're sitting there going, what am I doing? Again, maybe turn off the Netflix and the social media after this, of course, and start looking at, like, where can we find something new and fresh that we can provide that might solve some of the biggest issues. Because there are a lot of things, like entertainment's wonderful. We need that. We need the entertainers doing their stuff on video. We need lawyers giving their services online. We need all of this. We need the educators helping keep those classes moving. But there's a lot more, right? And looking at the highest needs is something that I'm in that conversation of, like, how can I contribute to really saving people's lives?
No, that's a great thing. I mean, I'm more of a brass tacks person, so I look at it in terms of money, because if you can't provide financially for your basic needs, how are you then able to go out and help others? Whether it's foregoing income by donating your time, or giving of your income to contribute to a fund. So that's where, certainly with small businesses, I think one thing that can really help them is at this point to be really looking at their service offerings and who they're working with, to have a look at, are they truly profitable? So if I'm, let's say, I don't know, I'm thinking about a web designer colleague of mine. So if she's putting together a proposal, she's going to build a website for a client, and she thinks it's going to take 10 hours and she's going to charge $100 an hour. Again, I'm just throwing out numbers so I can remember the math. 10 hours, $100 an hour, that's a $1,000 project. So when clients come back and say, oh, but I want this change and I want that change, and things start to go beyond the scope, you're then spending more time, but you're not charging more. And that's an area where a lot of knowledge professionals get hung up, because they haven't thought through what happens when things change. Hello, things are changing right now. So I think to build in more in terms of understanding time and wiggle room, setting stronger boundaries for themselves as to when things change and how to have that conversation in a very humane way, but to make it clear, this, what you're asking for in terms of a membership component to my website was not what we talked about. So it's, again, a great time to get clear, to go back to your initial premise, Nancy, about the numbers. What are you earning? Is it truly profitable work? And then to see who's out there who has a need. Is there a better way, a more profitable way that you can be of service to those who have a need without also, sacrificing yourself on the altar.
Yeah, and that's one
an
of
important
the
thing to think through, because one of the reasons that so many small businesses only have 14 days cash on hand is that they're not generating enough profit from their projects to be able to run the rest of the business. For those knowledge professionals, they came into it like myself because I love the law, or I love to read, or I'm creative, not because I love numbers, despite the fact there's an N in my name.
right. And I put my distribution that I use. I'm starting to use this more with my time also, and reinforcing that, even though I let myself be a little less structured last week as I coped, right? Because Nina, you and I talked about that too. Is like for those of you that are feeling kind of unstructured and a little lost in our new normal. Nina and I had this great conversation on our walk before we got more locked down last week. and what we were talking about is just the grieving process, and a lot more grief counselors and people that work in this space are starting to talk about that. So it's okay if that's where you've been, and I'm inviting you to start setting that aside. Like, just like if you grieve the loss of a loved one, you get to a point where you have to accept what is and start creating for yourself some sort of normalcy. So I've been going back to the distributions that I learned through the Millionaire Mind experience. It's T. Harv Eker's book. I plug things when I think they're of value. You mentioned Gusto. I used Gusto, so I use them for payroll. So I recommend a lot of my small business clients use them. So hey, people are getting some free some free advertising here as well. But I try to look now at, everything that I have, like 50% of my time is just on necessities. And necessities includes bringing in enough money to survive, right? And then looking at, 10% of that is planning for my future. So looking, like doing your challenge, looking at, okay, if this is what our normal is for the next 90 days, what am I going to do for that? Right. And then looking at, savings, in the time position, it might be like, how can I save myself money? Like, in the future, what can I learn so that I'm not paying for two different types of systems that duplicate, right? Like maybe I just need to do a tutorial online. And then, that also can be education, right? But you don't have to be really strict with this, but it gives you some guidelines, is that there's room to give. So I have to start limiting my time that I give for free. So my 10% today is largely taken up with this video and one I did earlier, right? Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to get back to work after this, but I'm also going to allow myself some time for fun. And so I loved their system because I use it for my money too, right? Because I think we all have certain weaknesses, and they show up in the way we spend our time and money. And this is where, we also talked about this, Nina, that these kinds of things are showing up in our lives, especially now because we're confined. We're literally confined. And we're starting to see where, I don't have as much money because I've been spending on things that weren't necessities. And now I don't have money for necessities. Right? I don't have a savings for the what I call my opportunity fund, right? To take advantage of, somebody said, oh, well, this is a good time to buy stocks. And I'm thinking, what? Stocks are low, but if I had been planning for an opportunity, maybe I'd actually have that, right? Still don't know if that would be the choice I'd make, but, really recognizing that I don't have a lot of wiggle room, and a lot of businesses don't. And we could get into the conversation on a whole call about large corporations using other people's money, but we're talking about small businesses who don't use usually other people's money. But looking at all of this, and we're starting to see our definitions of need, right? What really is a need? and how easily we get sucked into, that shiny ball syndrome where, oh, this is the magic, software that's going to fix all of your CRM problems or your bookkeeping problems or your SEO or marketing or website, whatever it might be. And we're like, oh, yes, because we don't know enough. Well, you got the time now, so let's set yourself up for success in the future. And I know that's hard to hear right now. We're still grieving the loss of certain freedoms and the way we thought the world operated. But the way that you come through this, right? Some people recommended reading Viktor Frankl's book, right? And he came out like from a lot worse circumstances. People that, they said people that served in World War II, right? Like we're being asked to sit on our couch is what I think somebody posted on Facebook. Like your grandparents were asked to go to war, right? So maybe we can do this. And so I'm just, I don't want to at all, I don't want to minimize what people are going through. I had a couple of rough days. I've had tears, right? But I also want you to know that you have resources, and no matter how dark things seem at times, this is why we're reaching out to you, is because we need you. We know if you've gotten this far, that there's something for you to contribute, and we want to help you do that.
Yeah, no, and Nancy, that's a great point, because when times are flush, it's very easy to overlook either the things that aren't working, as you say, the expenses that we don't really need, but who's got the time to figure out and prune them. So now really is a great time for that kind of healthy pruning. What are the discretionary expenses that we don't necessarily need in our business? As you say, it could be duplicated technology. It could be, you're going to be reinventing the way your business works. So you may not need the physical storage, because now you're going to be keeping everything digital and paperless as a result. And that way you can be more mobile and move around. So all of those things, this is, as I say, a great time to have a look at your business. For good or for ill, these are the circumstances that we're in. But when you're able to really operate at your leanest, then you have a great sense of really what do you truly need to bring in, and it could be a lot less than you expect. And that's another way to find money is, and also just to remind people that credit card companies and other vendors may be offering either payment plans or deferment on interest. So if you do already have loans outstanding or are taking credit cards, now can be a good time to talk to them, just to see what are they offering in terms of deferment or just non-payment of the interest charges or things like that, so that you have a little more breathing room and know what's truly essential for today.
Yeah, and that's back again to to numbers, right? Is you're absolutely right. You want to free up your cash right now. So if that means that you're paying a little less on a credit card, you can work that out. But you have to also be mindful of debt. This is one of the reasons that a lot of people will tell you, don't let yourself get too deep in debt. And this is why you want to spend some time with your accountant and an advisor to kind of baby step and hold your hands through this before you make major decisions, because you're also under stress. And the last thing that you want to do is make a knee-jerk decision, right, about your business under that kind of stress without the numbers and the guidance. Because what you could end up doing, for example, let's say you have a ton of credit card debt, and now you take on another loan on top of it, again, without the real prospects of having that income come up. And I want to be hopeful, but I'm also a realist, right? So I balance that all the time as both, the human being that I am, who really believes in the power of people and innovation and all the opportunities and possibilities in the world. But I also have been literally smacked down with life at more than one time. So I have to balance my hope and with my reasoning. And one of the best things we can do is come back to the numbers. So yes, call your credit card companies and ask if they can work with you on payment plans. I believe there are some programs where they're going to give a 90 days zero interest, so you'll at least be able to get caught up. So look there also as, can you use that time to catch up on some payments to reduce that debt so that you're not taking on new debt. And then when things start to reopen, you don't have this wave of additional debt coming under the interest rate again, because that will pile up, as you know, really quickly. And it's what we saw in 2008. And if you can't get ahead of that, then you won't be with us later. This is, again, why we're doing this call, is because we want you here at the end of it. We want you contributing what you came out here to do. And if you've been here this long, you're valuable. There's a need for your services. It might be a little different at the end of this, but keep looking and let us know what you need. So on that note, I'd love to just go to you. Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to go to Emily first, and then Nina, I'm going to come back to you as we're talking about need. Emily, what is it you need right now, and how can we be of support to you?
Well, I want to develop some type of, Nina and I have talked about evergreen product. I'm sure you're into evergreen stuff also. That's why you're recording this thing here, right? So, one of the things that I'm trying to work on, because not only for being a sort of a serial entrepreneur, but having my law practice, is trying to develop some evergreen things within my law practice that could be evergreen to clients, because that's something that I have not done in the past, because I don't want to compete with the legal Zooms of the world where people, because to me, that's not practicing law, that's something else. And in terms of, once I took my restaurant brand out of a physical space and been working on developing something, I'm actually more motivated, quite frankly, right now to do something more concrete and truly evergreen, because so this is just having the support system of people who are working and trying to do the similar things is very valuable to me, and just people going, yeah, do it, because I've been over the last couple of days just plugging into more sort of mindfulness kinds of things that are business oriented, obviously, just to keep the motivation on. I think because it's so easy I spent Saturday sulking and being obsessed with social media and every news report, that I just kind of had to unplug all of that and get back to business. And so just this is really, I think, a very valuable thing, just to have the other strong women doing their thing too, and trying to stay positive, because it's going to be difficult. And I think as long as people try to figure out how to serve people within this system, because as far as my practice goes, I've already had issues with clients that have, and of trying to help them navigate the force majeure issues of their life and some of their contracts not coming through. And I have one client that had stuff going on with Coachella, and with Coachella getting postponed / essentially canceled for the year, for lack of a better word. I mean, there's going to be a lot of that kind of stuff. So I understand, like, some of the things that I need to do for them and reach out. But I also want my practice to be able to take this time to develop some products and service-oriented things that don't rely on me as a human being telling them every 5 minutes, do this, do that, do the other. So it's part of what I'm trying to.
Oh, no. Yeah, well, Emily froze. Nina, are you still there? Okay, so
like Nina said,
sure. Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, this is okay. Emily froze on my end, so so sorry, Emily. But real quickly, is there anything in particular, a resource you need, or if you want tips on courses or people to connect with who develop evergreen products, I'll be happy to put some of those in the notes for you. And
Sure, I'd love to see, because I think a lot of it is trying to make sure that those products look like other products, and some of those kind of things that if there is more of a pipeline of consistency. I mean, when you buy various products or things on the internet, there's no physical thing coming to you anymore, and yet it looks like a box with some stuff that's coming to you, right? So there's somebody making up that stuff and making it look a certain way. If you have any resources, I'd love to have them.
Yeah, and I know Nina does.
Yeah, and I work with a great graphic design. I mean, it's graphic design stuff. So if you're a designer, they've got all those little things. So I'll be happy to put their link here in the chat in just a moment. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate you developing that and thinking outside of the box, Emily, because that is what we're all looking at here, is like, how do we continue to provide what it is that we already have been doing of value for people, with an eye on what the changes may be in the way that we deliver them and what the need is. Right. And I think that's what we got into by kind of fleshing this out. And it's kind of a live brainstorming session, but thank you for being part of it. And I think it really helps everybody see that there are resources out there. We just have to keep connecting. So, Nina, is there anything that we can do to support you during this very difficult time?
Well, you already have. I think being part of calls like this, remembering, to put on makeup and show up and just keep my mind active.
I didn't put on makeup today. I'm sorry. I just show up.
You look awesome.
You're allowed. So I think that's really helpful. I mean, obviously your plug at the very beginning for my Chaos Proof program. Thank you. That's always lovely. And so I'm actually eager. The program, the first cohort of the program is going to be wrapping up on the 31st. Yes, on the 31st of March. So I'm really eager to hear what people's feedback is, because that's kind of how my mind is working. When we're so overwhelmed, how do we take these large and difficult projects and just chunk them down to 15 minutes a day so that they're very, very doable? So maybe it is taking, how do I figure out whether or not my engagements are profitable? I don't know. So while I have a 12-minute video, there might be a better step-by-step process to teach people that over time. So those are just some of the things that I'm mulling on, but really, yeah, looking to be of service and and find a way to share the issue of chaos proofing, because for so many small businesses, they're one ankle break away from a disaster, because nobody else knows how to keep things afloat if they're not there.
Yeah. And that is something that unfortunately a lot of small businesses have been hit with, the hard reality, and myself included. I wasn't thinking that much about disaster planning before. We've been through 9/11 here, blackout, Hurricane Irene, Superstorm Sandy. Nina knows this, I was violently assaulted on my way home 6 years ago. So I was down with a head injury a little bit and PTSD while I recovered from that. You see that for the most part, through all of that, I've been able to continue business, right? It didn't slow me down. And for the most part, I'm still doing that today. But I recognize now that I was avoiding that conversation. And as I get a little older also, I'm starting to think about things. And Nina and I've been talking about this a lot, not just because of her program, but as we lost our parents over the past couple of years, and several of our colleagues were at the age, right, where we're dealing with, if we still have our parents, we're dealing with them being ill or becoming infirm. And as they age, we're having to think about, like, the reality is we're going to get there too, and what are we doing? So as I finally took the steps to clean up my personal planning, I started thinking about, well, Nina's part of that personal planning, because I have a business that I don't have attorneys in my family, right? My people around me are not going to be able to come in and just, run my business. And that's a common theme for a lot of small businesses right now, is they recognize if they get sick, if they're down with the coronavirus, there's no one to go in, and there's so many other things. I'm going to cover some of the more employment related things in later videos, but it's definitely got me thinking of, I'm best in a crisis when I have something to do. so that's another thing, is like, okay, what can I do? And then how do I recognize that not everybody is that way? So how do I help them be set up so that the people around them who aren't great in crises have something they can do? And like you said, Nina, step-by-step things. It's why, the Fitbit has the 10-minute reminder, right, to get up, because that's something that's pretty easy to do. Get up and do 250 steps is not that hard, and it moves you around, and now you're moving toward your goal. It's never this one magic, moment of the resource that falls in your lap, or the opportunity of a lifetime that suddenly fixes your life, right?
No magic pill? What?
No, sorry. And I know, like, we all know this intellectually, but emotionally we don't necessarily let it play out that way. And so I invite you to just keep, thinking about that, being in communication with each other. Reach out to your clients, not just for payment, but to see what they need. Be the support, build that loyalty, do what you can to help each other, and let us know if we can help you.
Right. And Nancy, let's close out the conversation with how you can be supported. Well, thank you for hosting this forum. Yeah.
I tried to avoid that. I was like, no, and we are done.
Nope. No, we're not. No, we're not. Not as long as I'm on this call. We're not done.
So yeah, this is one of the things that I'm having to get better at all the time, right? I'll admit, and I've been very open about this with people, that look, my business, one of the reasons that I don't have employees right now is that I was the person that didn't have those distributions that I talked about with time and money really down. And what was happening is that I was doing what a lot of people are doing in the current circumstance, that I was feeling bad about asking for my money or charging for my services, right? I get that I have privileges. I worked for a lot of them, right? But I get that I'm now a lawyer in New York City. There are a lot of people always doing worse off than I'm doing. So one of the biggest things that I need is these kinds of resources to remind me that we all have to be looking out for each other, right? And there are going to be people, unfortunately, that will take advantage if we don't have our guard up. But that's also why we've created tools. And you mentioned something about like looking at your client list and things like that. I have a form for that. I'll put that in there too. But right, like really assessing that. So my answer to what is it I need to be reminded that, we're all contributing together, and that it's okay for me to charge. And that doesn't mean I'm going to charge full price. I am running different, specials, and I'm negotiating with clients because I know they're in difficult situations. But being reminded that I have something to contribute and I need to stay open too, right? It's going to be really helpful. So I know that's a very vulnerable, authentic thing to say, but I think we all are going through that. And that's why I said I relate to my businesses that stayed open for their employees even when they weren't making a profit. So reach out if you're conflicted about making those decisions. They're going to change every day, and we'll be here.
Terrific. Thank you. Well, thank you, Nancy, for hosting the forum and
Nice
bringing all these issues forward.
Nice to meet you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.